Hey guys, welcome to my channel, Lot to Learn. So today I'm going to show you how to create a shared library in Jenkins to use that in your CI/CD pipeline. So we will create a shared library here and we'll use that in the Jenkins file to create one pipeline, and that would be a declarative pipeline. And using that pipeline, we will deploy one cluster, Kafka cluster. So let's see how it's done. So I'm going to use Amazon EC2 instances for the whole cluster, whole Kafka cluster, and then my Jenkins server is already up and running in Amazon, as you can see. So the Jenkins is already set up and it's running. So as you can see, I have already logged into the Jenkins, and I have configured my nodes. So right now I'm just using a single node, the master node itself as the worker node. So if you want to implement your Jenkins cluster maybe with various worker nodes, uh, then you can add that. So before you perform this, just set up the Jenkins. You can find that in Google. You can install the Jenkins and keep it up and running. And next thing is that I have created my own organization, as well as I have two repositories in that particular organization. So one is for the shared library which we will be creating, and the another one is the actual deployment scripts as well as the Jenkins file. So okay, so now I will first create the EC2 instances. So to deploy Kafka cluster, I have to have at least 4 nodes. So one, I will install Zookeeper, and rest 3 will be Kafka brokers. So I'm not going to cover Kafka basics here, or the whole Kafka Confluent Kafka platform. Uh, I will create a separate video for that, how to install, the video will be on the Kafka platform. So here I'm just going to deploy that, and to deploy, let's select CentOS. Okay, I go CentOS. I'm just selecting CentOS 7. The requirement for Kafka cluster is at least you should have 2 CPUs and memory should be high. So I'm just selecting the C2 medium here. Let's have 4 instances here, and rest all will be the default value. Let's add the storage. We'll make it 30 for each instances. And right now I'm not going to add any tag. Later on I will just create the name of the instances. Okay, I already have a security group open, so let's just create with that security group and let's review, and everything seems to be fine. So let's go and launch it. Okay, so the instances are getting created now. So while it's getting created, let me go and describe uh, or explain the shared library. Okay, so this is a shared library. Okay, and in a shared library we have 3 folders. One is resources, one is source, and another is vars. So now what is shared library? So in Jenkins, you can have multiple projects. Now every project has its own set of applications. Now it can be Python, it can be Java, it can be Node.js, any applications it can be. Now when you have a set of applications, there is a chance that the building process or maybe testing process uh, might be same for all the projects. So now if you have a single DevOps team and you are building the application and delivering the application or deploying the application on top of any infrastructure, uh, you have to create separate Jenkins file declarative pipeline, or maybe if you're doing if you're creating a single not a declarative pipeline, not without Jenkins file, even though you have to go and create each step in Jenkins and create your pipeline. So using shared library, what you can do is that you can create one library. So let's take an example. So all the projects uses Maven to build their application, and it has same set of unit tests. So and yeah, so these two process are same in all the teams. Now when you create a shared library, you will basically create a library for building the pipeline, for building the application as well as for the testing, and you will keep that in a single repository so that you can add that in your Jenkins, and that shared library can be used to by any project, whoever will be part of that particular Jenkins instance. So they can simply import that package, or they can import that particular um, library, and they can simply execute the library and it will build based on the library definition, right? So for reusability, we go with shared library in Jenkins. And in Jenkins shared library, when you create one repository like this, you basically have resources. So resources is the folder where you have your files. Files are like, maybe you have a manifest file or JSON file. You can keep that here, which you can use that in your pipeline. Maybe you can get the file and append the file and use that for your deployment. So basically you can keep your manifest files here. Source is basically the one where you keep your source code of your application. I'm not going to do that here because I have a separate repository of the code to deploy the application. And verse is the one where it sets the global variable. So using the shared library, we can set global variables. So basically global variables also acts as a steps or the scripts or the Groovy scripts, and you can use that for your build or test purposes. So I have not created any resources at this point of time for this particular CICD. I don't even have a source code here. So I'm just going to show you the verse. So I have two Groovy files. So one is Kafka install and another is the filter logs. So let's see what is there in these two files. Okay, so now I have just cloned the same repository into my local machine. So if you can see here, so this is the Kafka install.groovy file. So here I have two functions. So one is Ansible deploy and another is get the current directory. So before we write our code, we always provide a shebang here. So here it will be Groovy, because these scripts are Groovy scripts. So now let's see here, I'm just defining one variable Ansible deploy, and I'm taking these as parameters. So I'm taking deployment type as string, host file again as a string, and main playbook as string. So now before I go with that, I just want to mention that the Kafka cluster which I'm going to deploy, I'm going to use Ansible to deploy the whole Kafka cluster. I have already created my Ansible playbook. I'm not going to cover the Ansible playbook details here in this video, but again, I will create a separate video for that and I'll explain the Ansible playbook as well. Okay, so now as you can see here, I'm just taking these arguments in this particular uh, method or function. and the three arguments are deployment type and the host file for the Ansible and the main playbook for the Ansible. Now coming to the definition here, so I'm just mentioning if the deployment type all. So this is a very basic one, it's not a complicated one. So uh, here in the function I have created one if statement. So where deployment type is all, I'm just going to get this command, create a command. So diff command, I'm basically creating a string, okay, and that is like Ansible -i and then the host file. Here you can see the host file. I'm just getting from the argument of the function, and the main playbook is also I'm getting from the argument. So I'm creating a command which is a string, nothing but a string, and then I'm using a shell, sh shell, and I'm passing that command string to the shell function. So this function is a native function in Groovy. So if you just mention sh and a command, it will basically execute a shell command inside the server or the instance where the Groovy script is running. Okay, so once it's done, so obviously if the command has Ansible -i, then host file and the main playbook, it will execute the Ansible playbook, and that's what it's gonna do here in this step. Similarly, this is one example of one more method where I'm not using any uh, argument. So here I'm just using shell module again. I'm just executing one single command, that's pwd, to get the present working directory. So this is one library I have created. So each file is considered as single library, and whenever you are going to deploy or use that or import that library, we just have to use this part before .groovy. So coming to the next, so this is one um, library which I have created to check how many warning messages I'm getting in the particular log when it will execute the Ansible deploy function. So I'll get that, and I am going to, you know, present that like the current build is unstable, because if you have warning in your pipeline, or when the pipeline is getting executed, if you have warnings, it will not be considered as unstable or any other state. It will be as success. But I don't want to do that, because if there are many warnings are there, I want to make that as unstable, right? So let's see how it's done. So I'm just defining a call function. So here in this case, if I just simply import filter logs, then it will directly call this function. But here in this case, if I am going to call this Ansible deploy, then I have to use Kafka install .ansible deploy. So I just have to mention the exact method name which I'm going to call. Now coming to the filter logs, so here you can see I am just getting occurrences as an int variable. Now I'm getting the logs using current build.raw.get log. So this is a function provided by the Jenkins itself. So you can get that in the Jenkins dashboard itself. So if you I have to create the pipeline first, then I'll show you. Just understand this. So this is something to get the log. Okay, now I'm just counting, like, the count. I'm using the string utils which I have imported here. So this is a package I have imported, and I'm getting count matches and the logs, the whole log string, that would be a string here, and I'm searching with warning. So now if the warning is present inside this log string, so it will count how many times warning word is there in this particular log. Now once I get the count, now I will check if the count is more than the occurrence. So whatever the occurrence we have mentioned, if it is more, then it will basically set this current build.result equals to unstable. So again, this particular variable this is a variable of Jenkins. So if I put that as unstable, whenever we will execute the code or the pipeline, it will set the current build result as unstable. And I'm just simply getting a warning, giving a warning message, and I'm just printing that warning message, just like basically I'm getting how many warnings are there. Just I am going to print that inside that log itself when we execute the pipeline. So this is how you create a shared library, and you put that in your GitHub or your any source code management. Now once this is done, uh, what you can do is basically you have to go to manage Jenkins to import this library. You have to go to configure system, and once you go to the configure system page, you have to go down and search for global pipeline libraries. So now once you get the global pipeline libraries, right now I have already created one. So this is my library. So this is the one actually getting from this particular repository. I have already created that. If you have not, then you just basically put your name, library name here, and then you mention your version. I am just putting it master. It's up to you. You can put anything, and then I'm selecting modern SCM. So before you create, this won't be checked. So once you check that, you will get these options. In the modern SCM, I have selected GitHub because this is a Git. If you want to go with some other repository or any other source code management tool, we can select that. So once I select GitHub, I have to select the credentials. So the credentials I have already created before setting up this. So now I'm just selecting that, and I'm putting that HTTPS repository URL. So the URL, you can get it from here. So you can get that URL and paste it here. And if you just click on validate, it will show you the credentials are okay and connected to this particular repository. So once that is done, you can simply click on add. Okay, so I'm not going to do, right now it's anyway added, so I'm not clicking on add. If you add that, it will go and add your shared library repository to the Jenkins. Now once it is done, make sure you remember your shared library name. So that is shared-library-ansible for us. And now it's time to create your application. So let's assume that you already have your code ready, and let me show you the Ansible file. So now when you have created your shared library, you have to create an Ansible you have to create one Jenkins file. So now once you create a Jenkins file, you have to import the library like this. So add the rate library, and then you put your library name. So this name should be the same name as you have mentioned while importing the library into the Jenkins. So once you do that, and then you just simply write your pipeline like this. So in pipeline, I have just going with agent master because I'm just using my agent as my master as the agent itself. So yeah, I'm just basically putting that agent label master. Then I'm going with stages. So in the stages, I have two stages. One is deploy Confluent Kafka, and in that, if you see in the script, under the script, I have mentioned get the current directory, and I have imported the function Kafka install.get cur dir, which was there in our previous shared library repository. So you can see here Kafka install get cur dir. So this is how you can import your shared libraries in the Jenkins file. Now next is I'm just echoing installing Zookeeper and Kafka Broker. So here I'm using Kafka install.ansible deploy. And then if you remember the shared library which we created for Ansible deploy, that particular function accepts 3 arguments as string. So one is the deployment type, another is the host file, another is the main playbook file. So in deployment type, I'm mentioning all, and then I am mentioning that host YAML file. So if you see, my repository has the host YAML file in the same place where the Jenkins file is. So since it is in the same location, I'm just mentioning host.yaml file, and then the main playbook file is the main.yaml file, which is already here in the same location where Jenkins file is present, right? So this is the first stage to deploy the platform, and then I'm checking the logs for the warning messages. So if you can see here, so I'm just getting stage and check logs for warning, and here if you see under the steps, I'm mentioning checking for any warning, and the filter logs I'm passing 3. So if you remember, in the Groovy script we are getting one single argument in the call, and here I'm not even mentioning like filter logs dot call. I'm not mentioning, as we did for the deploying the Ansible playbook. Here I'm not mentioning the Kafka install then Ansible deploy, so like that. I'm just simply mentioning the filter logs, the library name, the file name, and I'm passing one argument, that would be 3. So if it is more than 3, the number of warning is more than 3, it will give a warning. It will make that particular whole build as unstable, right? Okay, so now once you create this, just push it to your SCM. I have already done that, so let me show you here. uh, this is my shared library, and this is my Kafka deployment repository. So here you can see my Jenkins file is already present. So this is the Jenkins file which I have already created. Now let's go and create our Ansible, I mean Jenkins pipeline. So before we do that, we have to click this new item, and let's give one name, Kafka deployment Ansible, and that would be a pipeline. So let's go and click OK. Let's put some description. This pipeline will deploy sorry Kafka cluster on AWS EC2 instances using Ansible and CICD. Okay, I'm just ignoring all other settings. You can check any of the settings based on your requirement, but I'm just going to go and select this poll SCM. So I'm just providing a cron entry here. So every 2 minutes it will check for new update in the source code. That would be GitHub for us right now. So I'm just mentioning the time range. So okay, so this means this is the schedule. So this means every 2 minutes it will check this particular repository for any new commit. If not, it won't trigger the trigger the pipeline. But if there is any changes, then it will trigger the pipeline. Okay, the next one is the pipeline script. So you can put your pipeline script here directly, but normally we do it using SCM. So let's go with this pipeline script from SCM, and the SCM type is git, and let's put the repository name here. So the repository name, the URL you can mention like this. You can copy it and let's put it here. This is the repository URL, and credentials. You have to select the credentials, and as you can see, it has tested the connection and it was successful. So that's why the error went off. Branch and keeping it to master. So if you have any other branch, you can put that. And the script path, so that would be Jenkins file, because here you can see in the root directory itself it has Jenkins file as the name of the file for the Jenkins declarative pipeline is Jenkins file. If you have something other than Jenkins file, you can put that here. Now once that is done, we can simply go apply and then save. As you can see, the pipeline is now created. And I'm not going to build it right now. Before that, I have to go and first disable this project for now. Okay, otherwise if you go and check our SCM and it will start deploying and won't find the details. So or maybe the settings, because we have to set the host file before we deploy the Kafka platform. So I'm disabling that, and let's go to EC2 instance and see. Let's see. Okay, all are running now. Okay, so let's put some name. It doesn't matter. All the servers are of same CPU and RAM. So Kafka broker 1, then Kafka broker 2, and this would be Kafka broker 3. Okay, cool. Let's go and put these like public DNS to connect. Okay, if you go to the host YAML file, make sure you mention the Ansible user to log in. I'm just making I'm putting it root. Key file is I have already set up the agent so that it has that keeper.pem, that private key in the home directory itself. So that is here, and I'm just putting the zookeeper. I'm just changing it here. The zookeeper host is this one. Let's put the Kafka brokers as well here. This is Kafka broker 2. Okay, I'm not going to deploy the schema registry, just the zookeeper and the Kafka broker. Now, if you are using the same file for your deployment, because I'm going to put this repo URL in the description of this video. So if you are using my code, just make sure you have this root user in your directory, or sorry, in your server, and you have already configured the keep here. So based on your AWS account, you create your servers, get the private key, put that in the Jenkins agent, and you mention that same path here. Okay, and then you put your zookeeper server and the Kafka brokers here. Okay, once this is done, let's go and add the changes. Change host.yaml file and update it with new Kafka hosts. Okay, let's push it to the repository, and let's go to the repository and see whether it has been updated properly or not. Okay, in the host you can see it's root and EC2 let's see, zookeeper EC2 376 EC2 376 okay, so it's updated now. Now let's go back to Jenkins, and let's enable this project and let's build it. It has started building. Let's go to see the console output. Now it has started building. Okay, so as you can see in the log, it has started with the current directory which we have written in the library, so it got executed the pwd, and it is now showing the present working directory. Then I'm installing the Zookeeper and Kafka, and there I'm executing this shell command and simple playbook icon I host cml.mainyaml, and it started executing the playbook. And as you can see, it has completed executing the playbook. So it has deployed the Confluent Kafka platform, and then after that it has also checked for the warning messages. So somewhere it has got some warning maybe, okay, in the log, in the whole log. And since it is less than 3, it has finished with success status. Okay, so yeah, now our Confluent Kafka platform is deployed. Let's go and check. Let's go to Zookeeper. Let's log into that Zookeeper. Okay, let's key here. So key name this one, and the user was root. Let's paste that host name here. Okay, now we are in the Zookeeper server. We are already in the root. Root again. So systemctl status confluent and then Zookeeper. So this is a Confluent version of Kafka. So every systemd service and most of the log files will be named as Confluent. So let's go and see. Okay, as you can see, the Confluent Zookeeper is running. Right. Okay. Let's go to Zookeeper shell. Okay. Localhost Zookeeper listens via the port 2181. Local. Okay. Now we are inside the Zookeeper shell, and I have already mentioned that I'll be having 3 Kafka brokers. So let's see whether it does show that, whether how many Kafka brokers are there. Okay, so let's less brokers / IDs. So as you can see, right now we have 3 brokers. Okay, now let's see the Kafka, whether the Kafka brokers are running or not. Let's come back here. Let's copy one of the brokers host name. Just use the same command, just deleting the host name. Let's put it like this. Okay, now this is the Kafka broker server. So let's go systemctl status Kafka. Sorry, that would be Confluent here, and server. So that is the Kafka broker server, and as you can see, this is also running. Okay, so so now we have deployed the whole Kafka cluster using Ansible and the CICD and Jenkins. So this video was for the shared library. So this is how you create your shared libraries, and this is how you basically import your shared libraries to your Jenkins file where you have your source codes, and you can use that shared libraries for multiple projects. So if you have any question, please post your comments on my video, and also I have provided the link of the repository in the video description down. So if you have any other questions uh, regarding the repository, you can also post your comments in the repository itself in the GitHub. Okay, so thank you guys for watching my videos. Please like, share, and subscribe.
Without you